Welcome to Accommodate This. My name is David, and I'm a late diagnosed autistic adult with decades of experience in the corporate world. I've witnessed firsthand the challenges that we face in the workplace, and I myself was unfairly terminated after requesting accommodations and reporting workplace misconduct. My manager, despite knowing my autism diagnosis, consistently invalidated my experiences and accused me of being difficult. And this is a pattern of abuse experienced by many neurodivergent individuals, where employers sow seeds of doubt, questioning our abilities and dismissing our requests for accommodation. By understanding some of the common excuses employers give to autistic people when we ask for accommodation, I hope it will help us advocate for our rights and create more inclusive workplaces. And now that you know why we're here, let's get into the topic for this video: accommodations. Let's take a closer look at some employment statistics. This chart illustrates a stark contrast between the employment rates of autistic and allistic people. See that tiny dark blue wedge? No? Let's zoom in. How about now? Yeah, right there. That represents the autistic population that is actually employed. Compared to the dark orange, which is the non-autistic or allistic population that is employed, you can see, while the majority of allistic individuals are employed, the majority of autistics are not. Only a significantly smaller percentage of autistic people actually have secure jobs worldwide. These other charts really call it out, highlighting a systemic bias against autistic individuals in the workplace. Regardless of our skills and abilities, we often face barriers to employment and career advancement. Despite the existence of affirmative action laws, like the Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA, autistic individuals continue to face significant challenges finding, obtaining, and retaining employment. Those of us who are fortunate enough to have jobs often encounter discrimination when requesting accommodations as well. Accommodations are all around us. We're all used to seeing disabled parking spots and wheelchair ramps in public spaces. But accommodations also come in the form of eyeglasses, which accommodate millions of people with visual impairments, or in the form of important signs that are written in multiple languages. We accommodate people for their differences all the time, not just for disabilities. And yet we still see a huge gap in autistic employment due to lack of accommodations. The ADA mandates that employers provide reasonable accommodations unless doing so would pose an undue hardship on the employer. And this means that the cost or difficulty of providing an accommodation must be significant to justify denying it. But as we learned in last week's video, the loopholes in the law give employers free rein to deny accommodations as they please, as long as their documentation says that they tried. Studies have shown that providing reasonable accommodations can actually improve productivity and reduce turnover. For example, a quiet workspace or flexible scheduling can help an autistic employee focus and avoid sensory issues. On the other hand, a lack of accommodation can result in burnout, job dissatisfaction, and ultimately job loss for the autistic individual. Despite all these factors, many employers are still reluctant to accommodate their autistic employees. So in this video, I'm going to look at 5 leading reasons employers give to avoid accommodating autistic employees. Let's go. One of the most common excuses employers give for not accommodating autistic employees is the perceived cost. To determine whether an accommodation is reasonable, employers may conduct a cost-benefit analysis. This usually involves weighing the costs of providing the accommodation against the benefits it will bring. For example, if an accommodation will improve employee productivity, reduce absenteeism, or enhance workplace morale, then the benefits may outweigh the costs. Unfortunately, many employers rely on stereotypes and assumptions about autistic people, rather than making the effort to get to know us and understand our unique needs. And this can lead to a reluctance to provide accommodations, even when the costs are minimal. A recent study found that providing accommodations for autistic employees often costs less than $500. In contrast, the cost of replacing an employee can range from thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. Focusing on how the accommodation will benefit the company rather than how it will help their autistic employees succeed is a common pitfall that can actually contribute to job dissatisfaction and greater costs for the employer. Unfortunately, the ADA uses generic terms such as reasonable and undue hardship without providing definitions for these terms, and that leaves the door wide open for employers to interpret the law how they wish. And too often they focus on material costs because emotional harms are difficult to quantify. And this does little to improve the barriers that prevent autistic employees from being fully integrated into the workplace. Another concern for employers is the appearance of favoritism. Unions have been shown to help in this regard. Unions can provide leverage to advocate for employee rights, but they can also unintentionally discriminate against autistic employees. Collective bargaining agreements, or CBAs, may not adequately address the unique needs of autistic individuals, leading to difficulties in obtaining accommodations. For example, a CBA might require all employees to work a specific schedule or perform certain tasks, and this could pose challenges for autistic employees who may require flexible arrangements or modifications to their job duties. But because the CBA is supposedly designed for all unionized staff, employers argue that autistic-specific language could be perceived as special treatment. And in the past, the Supreme Court has actually ruled in support of this stance to justify not accommodating autistic employees. It's important to remember that accommodations are not about providing special treatment. Instead, they're about creating a level playing field for all employees. And by accommodating autistic individuals, employers can tap into their unique skills and perspectives, leading to a more diverse and innovative workplace. When employers prioritize avoiding the perception of favoritism over providing necessary accommodations, they are essentially discriminating against autistic individuals. This can result in unfair treatment, such as being denied promotions or job opportunities. By refusing to provide accommodations, employers are essentially treating autistic individuals differently from their neurotypical peers, which is a form of discrimination. While unions can play a valuable role in advocating for workers' rights, it's essential that they also work to ensure that their policies and practices are inclusive of autistic employees. For those of us working without support from a union, we are often left to advocate for ourselves, which can be difficult when your employer doesn't understand your special needs. Another excuse used by employers to deny accommodations is the fear that autistic individuals may be abusing the system. While there may be rare cases of individuals who take advantage of accommodations, this should not be used to justify denying them to everyone. The vast majority of autistic people are simply seeking reasonable accommodations to help them succeed in the workplace. In my previous position, I literally asked for the bare minimum. That was to know what my job was, to have clear expectations and instructions provided in writing, and to have the ability to ask questions as needed. These are privileges that should have been standard, but because of the discrimination I faced, I was forced to request them as accommodations. It's important to recognize that autistic individuals may be particularly vulnerable to exploitation due to our unique communication styles and social challenges. This can make it difficult for us to succeed or to advocate for ourselves, or even report instances of abuse. In many cases, autistic individuals are actually the victims of abuse and discrimination in the workplace. We're often subjected to bullying, harassment, or excessive workloads. Despite these challenges, we are often expected to prove that we need accommodations. The power imbalance between employers and employees, particularly those with disabilities, can make it difficult to advocate for our rights. Employers may use their position of authority to intimidate or coerce employees into accepting unfair treatment, taking advantage of their employees. So, while fearing the imaginary possibility of the employee taking advantage of the company ends up taking real advantage of the employee by exploiting their vulnerabilities. The ADA is intended to protect individuals with disabilities from discrimination. Employers have a legal obligation to provide reasonable accommodations, unless doing so would pose undue hardship on the employer. But by denying accommodations, employers are violating the law and creating a hostile work environment, which places undue hardship on the disabled employee. To address this concern, employers should implement clear policies and procedures for handling accommodation requests and tailoring them for the individual. These policies should outline the processes for evaluating requests, and the types of accommodations that are considered reasonable, and the steps that will be taken to ensure accommodations are provided in a timely and respectful manner. Much of the time, using existing policies for workplace injuries involves unnecessary steps which don't apply to our neurodivergent needs, and may even require recertification despite our conditions being lifelong. Another factor contributing to the lack of accommodations for autistic individuals is the lack of trust employers have in their employees. While it's understandable for employers to want to protect their interests, it's important to remember that autistic individuals are just as capable and trustworthy as our neurotypical peers, if not more so. In fact, studies have shown that autistic individuals are often highly empathetic, honest, loyal, dedicated, and detail oriented. We may communicate differently than neurotypical people, which can lead to misunderstandings, but overall, we're more likely to be honest and transparent in our communication. When employers approach autistic employees with a lack of trust, they can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if employees feel that they're not trusted, they may be less likely to take initiative, or to collaborate with colleagues, or to disclose their needs at all. And this can lead to a breakdown in communication and a decrease in productivity. By fostering a culture of trust and respect, employers can create a more positive and productive workplace for autistic employees. And this can involve providing clear expectations, offering opportunities for feedback, and recognizing and rewarding employees for their contributions. The final factor I will be discussing today that contributes to a lack of accommodations for autistic individuals is a lack of understanding of the neurodivergent experience, particularly autism. While many people may be familiar with other neurodivergent conditions like dyslexia, ADHD, or Tourette's, autism is still generally misunderstood and stigmatized by the majority. Because of this lack of understanding and the general hiddenness of our condition, many employers expect the autistic employee to prove that they deserve accommodation. The diagnostic criteria for autism can be complex and challenging to meet. Autistics must deal with a lack of awareness among healthcare providers, long wait lists, and the high cost of assessments. And all of these factors can make it difficult for autistic individuals to obtain a diagnosis, even when we are experiencing significant difficulties. Once diagnosed, autistic individuals may still encounter barriers to obtaining accommodations. Employers may be hesitant to provide accommodations due to a lack of understanding about autism or concerns about the potential costs. However, research has shown that autistic people often possess unique skills and talents that can be valuable assets in the workplace when we are properly supported. It's also important to remember that autistic individuals may communicate and interface differently than neurotypical people. Because this can lead to misunderstandings and challenges in the workplace, employers often emphasize compliance to social norms, asserting the autistic individual should somehow overcome their neurology and act normal. But accommodating autistic individuals, rather than forcing us to hide our differences, allows employers to tap into our unique skills and perspectives, leading to a more diverse and innovative workplace. Much of this can be achieved without disruption for the remaining staff simply by training employees on autism awareness. Accommodations for neurodivergent individuals are not difficult to implement or costly. While many employers resist recognizing the benefits, accommodating neurodivergent employees is essential for creating a more inclusive and equitable workplace and stronger communities. By understanding our unique needs and providing reasonable accommodations, employers can benefit from the skills and perspectives that we bring to the table. I encourage you to share this video with your friends and family and colleagues. Together, we can raise awareness about the challenges faced by neurodivergent individuals and advocate for change. Let's work together to build a world where everyone feels valued, respected, and included. Thank you for watching. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more content like this.